The desert sun burned the sky with a fierce orange light, and the ground below was hot and rough under their feet. Lyra, the alien girl, moved quickly, her small frame darting between rocks and ridges. Her pale blue skin almost glowed in the harsh sunlight, but she stayed low, keeping to the shadows as much as possible. Beside her, Ethan ran, carrying the baby carefully in his arms. Noah, the little boy, slept peacefully, unaware of the danger around him. "Keep moving," Ethan said, his voice calm but tense. He glanced behind them. Dust clouds rose far in the distance, and the faint shape of hovering drones could be seen moving faster than anything natural. They were following them, always following them. Lyra's large eyes narrowed. "They're closer than before," she said softly. Her voice had a musical tone, almost echoing in the empty desert. "We don't have much time. They will catch us if we stop." Ethan nodded. He had learned to trust her instincts. She was small, but her senses were sharp. She could feel things others could not. "I know," he said, adjusting the blanket around the baby so it would not slip. "We just need to reach the canyon. There are tunnels there. It might slow them down." They ran together, carefully stepping over jagged rocks and dry shrubs. The wind picked up, carrying fine sand that stung their skin. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead and kept looking around. The drones were relentless. Each one was fast and silent, moving with deadly precision. He had no idea what they wanted with Lyra or the baby, but it did not matter. They had to survive. The canyon appeared in the distance like a dark scar across the desert. Its walls were high and its entrance was narrow. Ethan and Lyra picked up speed, racing toward it. Lyra stopped for a moment and looked at Ethan. "Do you have the baby?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said, holding Noah closer. "He's safe, but we can't stop." Lyra nodded. "Good. Keep him close. They will try to take him if they get the chance." As they reached the canyon, the ground under their feet became rougher. Loose stones made it easy to slip. Ethan carefully stepped over them, holding the baby tightly against his chest. Lyra was faster, moving like she was floating over the ground, her small legs carrying her with amazing speed. The drones were close now. Ethan could hear the faint hum of their engines. He could feel the heat of their presence, though they were still far enough away not to see. "We need a plan," he muttered. Lyra shook her head. "No time. Just follow me. I know the way." She ran ahead, leading them to a narrow tunnel hidden by rocks at the canyon's edge. Ethan followed, breathing heavily, and ducked into the darkness with Lyra. The temperature dropped inside the tunnel, and the shadows swallowed them. Noah stirred but stayed quiet, lulled by the warmth of Ethan's arms. They walked quickly but carefully. The tunnel twisted and turned, and Ethan had to watch his step to avoid tripping. Lyra moved ahead, her hands brushing along the walls. Occasionally, she would stop and listen. Then she would nod and move forward. "They're still following," she said after a while. "I can feel them." "How close?" Ethan asked. "Too close," she said. "We need to keep moving." The tunnel led them deep into the canyon. It was narrow, and in some places, Ethan had to bend low to fit. The walls were rough and cold, and small creatures scurried away at their approach. The smell of damp stone filled the air, but it was better than being out in the open. Here, at least, the drones could not fly freely. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a small cave. Ethan set the baby down carefully on a pile of old blankets he found in a corner. Noah blinked and yawned, stretching his tiny arms. Ethan looked around the cave. It was quiet, almost too quiet. "We can rest here for a few minutes," Lyra said. "But not long. They will not give up." Ethan nodded. He sat beside the baby, watching the cave entrance. The sunlight outside was fading, and the shadows grew longer. He felt the weight of the situation pressing on him. They were just three against an unknown enemy with unknown powers. But he could not let fear take over. He had to protect Noah, and he had to protect Lyra. "Do you know why they are chasing us?" Ethan asked finally. Lyra shook her head. "I don't know. I only know they want me, and the baby. There is something special about him, something they fear." Ethan looked down at Noah. The baby's tiny hands curled into fists, and his eyes closed as he slept. He could not understand why this child was important, but he felt a fierce need to keep him safe. He had survived a lot in his life, but protecting someone else was different. It made him stronger, sharper, more focused. Suddenly, a faint sound came from the tunnel entrance. Ethan stiffened. Lyra's eyes widened. "They found us," she whispered. Ethan quickly picked up the baby and stood. The cave was small, but it had 2 exits. He glanced at Lyra. "Which way?" "This way," she said, pointing to a narrow side passage. "It leads to the rocks above. We can climb out and lose them in the canyon." They ran through the passage, Lyra leading and Ethan following with Noah in his arms. The passage was steep, and the walls scraped their skin as they moved. Dust and small stones fell around them. Ethan's muscles ached, but he kept going. Every step was a step closer to safety. When they emerged from the rocks, the canyon stretched out below them. The sun was almost gone, and the shadows were deep. Ethan climbed carefully down a steep slope, Lyra moving ahead to find the safest path. The drones were still above, moving slowly now, scanning the canyon for their targets. "They can't see us yet," Lyra said. "But they will. We need to keep moving." Ethan nodded. He set the baby down for a moment to catch his breath. "You're right, but we can't run forever. We need help." Lyra looked at him. "There is a place, a ruined settlement nearby. It is empty, but it has supplies. We can hide there." Ethan frowned. "Empty settlements can be dangerous. What if they are waiting for us?" "They won't expect us," Lyra said. "We can make it if we are careful, but we must move fast." Together, they moved through the canyon, careful to stay in the shadows. The terrain was rough, full of rocks and sand that shifted under their weight. Ethan stumbled a few times but managed to stay upright. He kept Noah close, whispering softly to keep him calm. After hours of careful travel, they reached the edge of the ruined settlement. Buildings were broken and covered in sand, and the doors hung on rusted hinges. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Stay behind me," he said to Lyra. "We check inside first." They moved cautiously, entering the closest building. Inside, dust covered the floor, and the air smelled stale. Ethan set the baby down on a pile of old clothes, and Lyra knelt beside him. Noah smiled in his sleep, and Ethan felt a small relief. "We can rest here for a while," Lyra said, "but we must prepare. They will come." Ethan nodded. He moved to a broken window and looked outside. The drones had not yet appeared, but he knew it was only a matter of time. He felt the tension in his chest, but he pushed it down. He had to stay calm. He had to stay ready. "We need a plan," Ethan said. "We can't just hide forever. We need to find a way off this planet, or at least a way to defend ourselves." Lyra's eyes shone in the dim light. "I can help. I can use my power, but it drains me. We must be smart." Ethan nodded. "Then we fight smart. We survive no matter what." The sun disappeared behind the horizon, leaving the settlement in shadow. Outside, the wind howled through broken buildings, carrying the sound of distant rocks falling. Ethan held Noah close, Lyra beside him. They were small, but they were not helpless. Together, they had a chance. And in the darkness, the faint hum of the drones grew louder. The chase was not over. It had only just begun. Ethan took a deep breath. "We keep moving," he whispered. "We don't stop." Lyra nodded. "We don't stop." The 3 of them, human, alien, and baby, huddled together in the ruined building, ready to face whatever came next. The night was long, but for the first time in hours, Ethan felt a spark of hope. They had survived this far. They could survive the next challenge too, and somewhere far above, the drones moved silently, unaware that their prey was smarter, faster, and more determined than they expected. The desert was vast. The night was dark, but Ethan, Lyra, and Noah would not give up. They were running out of time, but they were not out of hope. Ethan, Lyra, and Noah stayed in the ruined building until the first light of morning. The desert had grown quiet during the night, and for a brief moment they felt safe. But Ethan knew better. The drones would not give up. They were patient, and they always found their targets. "We need to move," Ethan said, holding Noah close. "If we stay here, they will find us eventually." Lyra nodded. "I know a place. It is not far. Some humans live there sometimes, but they left long ago. We can get supplies." The three of them left the ruined building carefully. Ethan scanned the horizon. The sun was rising, casting long shadows across the desert. The heat would come soon, but for now, it was manageable. Lyra led them along a narrow path, moving fast but quietly. After a few hours of walking, they reached a small settlement. Most of the buildings were broken and sand covered the streets, but there was enough shelter to hide and search for food and water. Ethan set Noah down gently on a pile of old blankets. The baby smiled and reached for Lyra. She picked him up and held him close. "We should split up," Ethan said. "You check the buildings for supplies. I will make sure the area is safe." Lyra shook her head. "No, we should stay together. They are out there, waiting for us to make a mistake." Ethan sighed. He knew she was right. The drones were probably watching, and splitting up would be dangerous. "Okay," he said. "We stay together." They moved through the settlement, searching the broken buildings. Lyra pointed to a small store with a half-broken roof. Inside, they found cans of food, bottles of water, and old blankets. Ethan gathered everything they could carry. Noah giggled when he saw a small stuffed toy among the rubble, and Lyra handed it to him. The baby held it tightly, his little fingers gripping the fabric. As they prepared to leave, Ethan heard a faint sound. It was a human voice, soft and cautious. He motioned for Lyra to stay behind him and moved toward the sound. Around a corner, he saw two humans hiding behind a collapsed wall. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, raising his hands. The taller of the two stepped forward. He had short brown hair and a rugged face. "My name is Luke," he said. "This is Mara. We mean no harm. We saw you moving through the desert. We thought, maybe you need help." Ethan studied them carefully. He could not trust easily, but something about their eyes seemed honest. "We need help," he said slowly. "We are being chased. Drones. Enemies. They are following us. We need a safe place, and someone who knows the area." Mara nodded. "We can help. We know some old supply caches and hidden paths. We can keep you safe, at least for a while. But you need to tell us everything." Ethan looked at Lyra. Her large blue eyes met his, filled with caution, but also a flicker of hope. "They are after us," Ethan said. "Her and the baby. I don't know why, but they won't stop. We need to get far from here, and we need to move fast." Luke and Mara exchanged a glance. "We can do that," Luke said, "but you have to trust us. Out here, the desert is not the worst thing you have to worry about." Ethan nodded. "Okay, we trust you. For now." The four humans and Lyra moved together through the settlement. Luke led them to a small building at the edge of town. It had thick walls and a hidden entrance at the back. "This will work for now," he said. "They won't see us here easily." Inside, Mara and Luke helped Ethan and Lyra set up a small camp. They arranged blankets for Noah, stored the supplies they found, and covered the windows with broken shutters. Lyra held Noah close and watched the humans carefully. We need a plan, Ethan said. We can't just hide. They will find us eventually. We need a way to get off this planet, or at least a way to fight back. Mara nodded. I can work on that. I know some old tech around here. Some of it is broken, but we can make it work. Maybe we can build a tracker jammer or create a safe path for escape. Luke frowned. And we have to move fast. The longer we stay, the closer they get. We might be lucky today, but they won't stop. Lyra spoke quietly, almost to herself. I can help too. I can sense them. I can feel when they are near, but it drains me. I cannot use it for long. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll figure it out together, you, me, Noah, and these two. We can survive. For the next few hours, they worked together. Mara fixed old communication devices, turning them into a crude alarm system. Luke scavenged parts from broken vehicles and created tools to help them move through the desert safely. Ethan reinforced the camp, making sure that if the drones came, they had some protection. Lyra stayed close to Noah, using her senses to detect any danger nearby. Occasionally, she would look up, her large eyes reflecting worry and determination. They are closer than before, she said once, but they do not know where we are. Ethan nodded. Then we stay here for now. We rest and we prepare. Tomorrow we move. Night came, and the desert grew cold. The wind whistled through the broken buildings, and the stars appeared in the sky. Ethan watched the baby sleeping, his tiny chest rising and falling. He felt a strong need to protect him, stronger than anything he had ever felt before. Luke and Mara sat nearby, keeping watch. You have a brave friend, Mara said softly, nodding to Lyra. She is not afraid of anything, but she knows how dangerous it is. Ethan smiled faintly. She's not like anyone I've ever met, but we need her, and she needs us. We're a team now. Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflecting the faint starlight. We all need each other, she said. If we stay together, we can survive. Suddenly, a faint sound came from outside. Ethan stiffened. Luke and Mara listened too. It was soft, almost like the wind, but Ethan could feel it in his chest. Something was coming. They are close, Lyra whispered. I can feel them. Ethan picked up Noah. Everyone ready? He asked. Luke nodded. We've prepared as best we can. Let's move if we have to. Mara held a small device she had repaired. This will alert us if anything comes near. But it won't stop them. We have to move quickly if they find us. Hours passed slowly. The night was tense, and every small sound made them alert. The desert seemed peaceful, but Ethan knew better. Danger could appear at any moment. Finally, Lyra spoke. We have a chance. The drones are scanning, but they are not here yet. We can use this time to leave the settlement and head for the mountains. There is a hidden path there. They will not see us easily. Ethan nodded. Then we go. Quietly, carefully. Noah stays close. Everyone stays together. They moved through the broken streets, careful to stay in shadows. The wind blew dust around them, hiding their movements. Luke and Mara led the way, showing paths that were safe from the drone's sensors. Lyra walked beside Ethan, keeping her senses alert. The journey was slow and tiring. The desert was harsh, and every step required focus. Ethan carried Noah most of the way, making sure he stayed safe and warm. The baby cooed softly, unaware of the danger, but his presence gave Ethan a new strength. As they reached the foot of the mountains, Ethan looked back. The settlement was far behind them now. For a moment, he allowed himself to hope. They had made it this far. They could survive another day. Lyra stopped and looked at the mountains. The path is dangerous, she said. But it is our best chance. If we reach the top, we can hide and plan our next move. Ethan nodded. Then we start climbing. Together. The climb was slow and difficult. Rocks shifted under their feet, and the wind grew stronger. Luke and Mara helped guide them, finding safe footholds. Ethan carried Noah, careful with every step. Lyra led the way, using her senses to avoid danger. Halfway up the mountain, they stopped to rest. Ethan set Noah down on a flat rock. The baby laughed softly, reaching for Lyra. She smiled and picked him up, holding him close. "We are close," she said. "If we keep going, we can make it. But we have to be careful. They are still out there." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "We will make it. We have to. We survive no matter what." Night fell again as they reached a small plateau. From here, they could see the desert below. The settlement was tiny in the distance, almost invisible. Ethan felt a small sense of relief. They had escaped, for now. Luke and Mara helped set up a small camp on the plateau. They used rocks to create a barrier and set up alarms with the devices Mara had repaired. Lyra kept watch over Noah, her senses alert for any approaching danger. "We can rest for a little while," Luke said, "but we move at first light. We cannot stay here long." Ethan nodded. "Agreed. We rest, we prepare, and then we move. We survive together." The desert night was cold and quiet. Ethan held Noah, feeling the weight of responsibility and hope. Lyra sat beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon. Luke and Mara watched the camp, alert and ready. For now, they were safe. But the chase was not over. The drones were still out there, searching, waiting. And Ethan knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But he also knew this: they had each other. And together, they could survive anything. The first light of morning broke across the desert, turning the sand into waves of gold. Ethan, Lyra, and the others packed up their small camp on the plateau. Noah was snug in Ethan's arms, his tiny eyes blinking at the sunlight. Lyra adjusted the blanket around him carefully. "We have to move fast," Lyra said. "They will be searching for us soon. I can feel them." Ethan nodded. We climbed down the mountain carefully. "Luke, you and Mara find the safest path. Lyra and I will take Noah." Luke and Mara led the way first, stepping carefully over loose rocks. Ethan followed with Noah, holding him tightly. The baby cooed softly, unaware of the danger. Lyra walked beside them, her senses alert to any approaching enemy. As they descended, Ethan glanced back. In the distance, he could see the desert stretching endlessly. The ruined settlement looked like a small dot. The drones had not appeared yet, but Ethan knew it was only a matter of time. The enemy was patient, and it would not take long before they were discovered. Halfway down, Lyra stopped suddenly. She knelt and touched the ground. "They are close," she whispered. "Not here, but near. They are searching. I can feel their focus." Ethan tightened his grip on Noah. "Then we hurry. No mistakes." They moved faster, careful not to make noise. The rocks under their feet were loose, and every step was dangerous. Luke and Mara helped guide them through a narrow path that led to a dry riverbed. It was hidden from the plateau, and for a moment they felt a small relief. "This should slow them down," Mara said. "The drones will have a hard time seeing us here." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "They will find us. But it will give us time to prepare." Ethan looked at Noah. The baby's small hands curled around his finger. He felt a surge of determination. No matter what, he would protect this child, and he would protect Lyra too. As they moved through the riverbed, Luke spoke quietly. "There's an old ship nearby. It was left here years ago. It might still work. If we can reach it, we can escape the desert entirely." Ethan's eyes lit up. "A ship? Can it fly?" "Maybe," Luke said. "It's old, but I can try. Mara can help with repairs. We might not need a perfect ship, just enough to get us moving." Lyra's large eyes widened. "That could work, but we need to move fast. They are learning our paths." The group moved cautiously, following the riverbed. The desert sun grew hotter, and the shadows shortened. Ethan kept Noah close, while Lyra scanned the horizon with a sharp gaze. Luke and Mara scouted ahead, pointing out areas where the ground was unstable or where sand might hide sudden drops. After a few hours, they reached a small hangar hidden in the rocks. The metal doors were rusty, but they could still be opened. Luke pushed them aside, revealing an old spacecraft inside. Its surface was dusty and scratched, but the body was intact. "This is it," Luke said. "It won't be fast, but it will fly. We can use it to escape the desert and find a safe place." Mara moved quickly, inspecting the ship's systems. "Some circuits are broken, but we can fix them. We'll need fuel, though, and that might be a problem." Ethan looked at her. "We don't have time to search for fuel far away. Can we make it work with what's here?" Mara studied the control panel. "I can reroute some power from the old batteries and use a small reserve from the engines. It won't last long, but it's enough to lift off and get us away from the drones." Lyra's senses were alert. "We don't have much time. They are coming." Ethan nodded. He held Noah closer and looked at the others. "Then we prepare. We have to be ready to leave as soon as Mara finishes." Mara worked quickly, soldering wires and connecting circuits. Sparks flew, but she moved with skill and speed. Luke checked the exterior, making sure the hull was strong enough for takeoff. Ethan and Lyra stayed near the entrance, keeping watch. Hours passed. The desert sun moved slowly across the sky, and Ethan felt the weight of exhaustion. Noah stirred, and Lyra calmed him, humming softly. The baby seemed to sense the tension, but remained quiet, trusting them. Finally, Mara stepped back. "It's ready," she said. "We can start the engines, but we have to move fast. If they catch us before takeoff, it's over." Luke climbed into the pilot's seat. "I can do this. We just need a clear path." Ethan held Noah and looked at Lyra. "Are you ready?" Lyra nodded. "I'm ready. Let's go." They moved into the ship, careful to keep quiet. The engines hummed softly as Luke started them. The spacecraft shook, then stabilized. Dust and rocks shifted as they lifted slowly off the ground. Ethan felt a rush of hope. They were leaving the desert. For now, at least, they were free. But freedom came with danger. As the ship rose, Ethan looked down and saw small shapes moving in the desert. The drones had discovered them. They were fast, and there were more than Ethan expected. "They see us," Lyra said, her voice calm but urgent. "They are coming." Luke swerved the ship, dodging a beam of energy that passed dangerously close. Mara shouted from the control panel, "They're targeting us! Brace yourselves!" The ship shook as another beam hit the hull. Sparks flew, and alarms blared. Ethan tightened his hold on Noah, while Lyra moved closer to protect him. The baby cried softly, but Lyra's voice calmed him. "We can do this," Ethan whispered. "We have to. We survive." Luke maneuvered the ship through a canyon, using the rocky walls as cover. The drones followed, firing energy blasts that left marks on the rocks. Ethan and Lyra kept watch, ready to react if any drone got too close. Mara worked on the control panel, rerouting power to shields and engines. "I can hold them off for a little while," she said. "But we have to reach open space. Once we are in the air, we can shake them." The canyon ended, and the desert stretched out below them. Luke pushed the engines to their limits, lifting the ship higher. The drones followed, but the old spacecraft was surprisingly fast. They dodged blasts and used the terrain to confuse the sensors. Ethan felt a surge of pride. Humans were not the strongest species, but they were clever. They used what they had, adapted, and survived. He looked at Lyra, who held Noah tightly. Her large eyes reflected determination and trust. Together, they were stronger than any enemy. Suddenly, a beam hit the ship's wing. Sparks flew, and the hull groaned. Luke swerved sharply, narrowly avoiding another hit. Mara shouted, "We can't take much more. We have to shake them now." Lyra closed her eyes, concentrating. A soft blue glow surrounded her hands. She reached out, sensing the drones, feeling their positions in the sky. With a small movement, she created a wave of energy that disrupted their sensors temporarily. The drones faltered, unsure where the ship was. "Now!" Ethan shouted. "Go!" Luke pushed the engines harder and the ship shot forward, leaving the drones behind for a moment. Mara worked quickly, stabilizing the controls and keeping the shields up. Ethan held Noah tightly, feeling the baby's small heartbeat against his chest. The desert below became smaller as they rose higher. The sky turned dark blue, then black. Stars appeared, and the ship entered open space. For the first time, they felt a small relief. They were free from immediate danger, but Ethan knew it would not last. The enemy was persistent. They would find them again. The drones were only a warning. The real threat was still out there, somewhere in the stars. Lyra held Noah and whispered softly, "We are safe for now, but we must keep moving. They will not stop." Ethan nodded. "I know, but we survived the desert. We can survive what comes next." Mara checked the controls. "We have enough fuel to reach the nearest planet. It's not far, but it's habitable. We can rest there and plan our next move." Luke adjusted the course. "Good. We need a place to hide and prepare." The desert was only the beginning. Ethan looked at the stars outside the window. The universe was vast, full of dangers and mysteries. But for the first time, he felt hope. They had each other, and together, they could face anything. Lyra looked at him and smiled faintly. "We are stronger than they think. Humans are clever. We can survive." Ethan held Noah close and nodded. "We will survive." No matter what. The ship moved through space, leaving the desert behind. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of unknown challenges. But they were ready. Humans, alien, and baby, together, they had a chance. And somewhere far behind, the drones watched, confused and disrupted by Lyra's power. They would not give up, but Ethan knew one thing. Humans were not easy to catch. The chase was far from over, but for now, they were alive. And in the silence of space, that was enough. The ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of the jungle-covered planet. Ethan held Noah tightly, feeling the baby's small heartbeat against his chest. Lyra sat beside him, her blue eyes scanning the dense green canopy below. "This planet looks wild," Luke said from the pilot seat, "but it has forests, rivers, and caves. We can hide there for a while." Mara studied the instruments. "The landing zones are tricky. There are tall trees and cliffs. We need a clear space, or we risk crashing." Ethan nodded. "Do it carefully. Noah must stay safe." The ship descended slowly, moving between giant trees and cliffs. Ethan could see the jungle stretching endlessly below, full of green and shadows. He realized how different this world was from the desert they had left behind. Here, life was everywhere, loud and unpredictable. Lyra held Noah closer. "I can sense them," she whispered. "The drones are still out there. They know we left the desert. They will find us if we are careless." Ethan looked at her. "Then we stay alert. No mistakes." Finally, Luke found a small clearing between thick trees. The ship landed with a soft thud. Ethan exhaled, relieved. For now, they were safe. The jungle would hide them better than the open desert ever could. They stepped out of the ship carefully. The air was thick and humid, and the sounds of the jungle surrounded them. Birds, insects, and creatures Ethan had never seen before filled the air with noise. Noah blinked at the sunlight filtering through the trees. "This place is alive," Lyra said. "We can hide, but it will be hard to move quietly." Mara checked the supplies. "We have food from the desert, but we need water. There is a river nearby. We can use it, but we have to be careful. Creatures there might be dangerous." Ethan nodded. "We stick together. Lyra, watch Noah. Luke and Mara, help me scout the area. We need a safe place to camp and plan. They moved into the jungle carefully. Every step made small noises, but they were alert. Ethan carried Noah most of the time, keeping him safe. Lyra walked beside him, using her senses to detect anything unusual. Luke and Mara led the way, clearing paths and checking for traps or dangerous creatures. After hours of walking, they found a small cave near a river. The entrance was hidden behind thick vines, and rocks blocked most of the view from the outside. "This is good," Luke said. "We can hide here and rest. It's safe for now." Ethan placed Noah down gently on a blanket. The baby looked around, curious about the green leaves and bright sunlight outside the cave. Lyra smiled, holding him close. "We can stay here," Lyra said, "but we must be ready. They will not stop searching for us." Mara and Luke set up the area. They found dry branches for fire and cleared a space for food and supplies. Ethan kept watch near the entrance, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The jungle was alive with sound, but it also made it harder for enemies to track them. Days passed as they rested and explored. They learned to move quietly through the jungle, avoiding dangerous plants and creatures. Ethan taught the group how to set simple traps using sticks, rocks, and vines. Mara helped him design them so that the traps could slow down any enemy or predator that came close. Lyra practiced using her powers carefully. She could sense approaching danger, but it drained her energy quickly. Ethan noticed that after each warning she became weaker. He stayed close, holding Noah and helping her recover. One afternoon, as they gathered water from the river, Lyra froze. Her blue eyes glowed faintly. "They are near," she whispered. Ethan looked around. The jungle seemed quiet, but he knew better. "Where?" he asked. Lyra concentrated. "Close. Dozens of them. They move fast, but they are confused by the jungle. We can use that." Ethan nodded. "Good. Let's set some traps. Make the jungle our advantage." They worked quickly, placing hidden pits, tripwires, and noise-making traps along likely paths. Luke and Mara helped, testing each trap to make sure it would work. Ethan positioned himself near the entrance, while Lyra and Noah stayed deeper inside the cave. As night fell, they heard faint sounds in the jungle. The drones had followed them here, but the traps made it difficult for them to approach. Rocks fell, sticks snapped, and strange sounds echoed through the trees. The humans moved carefully, using the traps to slow the enemy. Lyra's eyes glowed again. She concentrated, sending a pulse of energy into the nearby jungle. The drones faltered, unsure of where the humans were. Ethan smiled faintly. "Good job, Lyra. That's exactly what we needed." The night was tense. Every small sound made Ethan hold Noah tighter. Mara and Luke stayed alert, checking for any signs of enemy movement. The drones moved cautiously, avoiding traps, but they were persistent. Ethan realized that these enemies had intelligence, not just technology. They were patient and adaptive. Hours passed slowly. The jungle seemed alive with whispers, noises, and distant sounds. Ethan felt the weight of exhaustion, but he knew they could not stop. Survival meant constant alertness. Finally, as dawn approached, the sounds in the jungle faded. The drones had retreated for now, frustrated by the traps and Lyra's powers. Ethan exhaled, holding Noah close. "We made it through the night," he whispered. Lyra smiled faintly. "We can rest a little, but we must plan our next move. They will not give up." Mara and Luke began checking supplies. "We need more food," Mara said. "The jungle has fruit and small animals, but we have to be careful. Some creatures are dangerous." Luke nodded. "We can hunt if necessary, but we need to stay hidden. The drones could return at any time." Ethan helped Lyra feed Noah. The baby was curious about the jungle, reaching for leaves and small creatures. Ethan smiled, feeling a small sense of normalcy. Even in danger, life continued. They spent the next few days exploring the nearby jungle. They found small fruit trees, a fresh water source, and areas where they could hide. Ethan taught everyone how to move silently, how to avoid dangerous animals, and how to use the environment to their advantage. Lyra began to recover some strength, sensing the jungle for danger but not overusing her powers. Ethan noticed that she became weaker if she used too much energy at once. He made sure she rested and ate well. One afternoon, while exploring a small ridge above the river, Ethan spotted something unusual. "Look," he whispered. Below them, a group of humanoid shapes moved through the jungle. They were different from any normal creatures. Their movements were precise and coordinated. Ethan realized immediately the enemy had found them. "They are coming," Lyra said, her voice calm but tense. "They are learning. We have to be ready." Ethan nodded. "Set the traps. Use the jungle. We can slow them down and confuse them." They moved quickly, placing hidden pits, tripwires, and noise traps. Mara helped design them to maximize confusion. Luke checked paths and reinforced weak spots. Lyra focused, sending small pulses of energy to detect the enemy's approach. As night fell, the enemy approached. The traps worked perfectly. Rocks fell, sticks snapped, and loud noises echoed through the jungle. The humanoid figures paused, confused by the sudden obstacles. Lyra's energy pulses made it even harder for them to track the humans. Ethan watched, holding Noah. The baby's small hands curled around his finger, calm despite the chaos. Ethan realized something important. Humans were not the strongest, but they were clever. They adapted. They used their environment. And they never gave up. That made them dangerous. The enemy moved cautiously, avoiding traps, but they were persistent. Ethan realized they could not hold them off forever. They needed a plan to escape the jungle completely or confront the enemy directly. "Tomorrow," Ethan said, "we move deeper into the jungle. We find a place they cannot reach easily. We prepare for the next challenge." Lyra nodded, holding Noah close. "We survive together." Mara checked the traps one last time. "We can hold them off tonight, but we must be ready. They are smart and patient. They will not stop." Luke looked at the horizon. "The jungle helps us now, but we cannot stay here forever. We need a long-term plan." Ethan held Noah and looked at Lyra. "We will survive. We have to. No matter what comes, we face it together." The night passed slowly. The jungle was alive with sounds, but the humans stayed alert. Every crack of a branch or rustle of leaves made Ethan's heart race, but they were ready. Humans were clever, and with Lyra's powers, they could face even the most persistent enemy. As dawn approached, Ethan looked at Noah sleeping peacefully. The baby's presence gave him strength. He realized that they were not just surviving, they were fighting for a future where they could be free from the enemy, where humans and Lyra could live without fear. And somewhere deep in the jungle, the enemy watched. They were frustrated, but they had not given up. Ethan knew the fight was far from over, but he also knew this: humans never quit. Lyra smiled faintly. "We are ready," she said. Ethan nodded. "We are ready. We survive." Together, human, alien, and baby prepared for the challenges ahead. The jungle was dangerous, but it was their home now, and they would use it to survive, fight, and win. The jungle was quiet, but Ethan knew that peace was temporary. From the shadows, he could feel the enemy moving closer. Lyra's large blue eyes glowed faintly, scanning every sound and vibration. Noah slept in her arms, oblivious to the danger, his small fingers curling around the blanket. "They are coming," Lyra whispered. "They know we are here. They are stronger than before, but we can fight smart. We can survive." Ethan tightened his grip on a sharpened stick he had prepared as a weapon. "Then we fight smart," he said. We use the jungle, our traps, and our brains. They may be stronger, but we are clever. We can win. Luke and Mara checked the traps again. Spikes hidden in shallow pits, tripwires tied to falling logs, noise traps that would confuse the enemy. All were ready. Mara held a makeshift device that could emit a blinding light when triggered, while Luke carried a small crossbow he had repaired from old parts. The first sounds came at dusk. Leaves rustled violently, and distant branches cracked as the enemy approached. Ethan crouched low, holding Noah close. Lyra knelt beside him, sending small pulses of energy into the jungle to detect the enemy's movements. "They are cautious," she said, "but they are smart. They know we are here." Ethan nodded. "Then we wait for the right moment. They will make a mistake. We just have to be ready." The enemy moved slowly into the clearing. Their shapes were humanoid, tall and thin, with armor that shimmered faintly under the fading sunlight. Ethan realized that these beings were not just drones. They were alive, intelligent, and coordinated. They had studied humans before, but they underestimated human determination. Lyra rose slightly and raised her hands. A faint blue glow spread from her palms. Ethan watched as the energy rippled through the jungle, sending vibrations that confused the enemy's sensors. They paused, scanning in every direction. "Now," Ethan whispered. "We attack smart, not fast." Luke triggered a trap, sending a log swinging toward one of the enemy soldiers. The creature stumbled, crashing into a hidden pit. Mara activated her light device, temporarily blinding two more attackers. Ethan and Lyra moved quickly, using the confusion to their advantage. Ethan swung his stick at a nearby enemy, striking with precision, while Lyra sent a pulse of energy that knocked another backward. Noah giggled softly, unaware of the chaos around him. Ethan smiled faintly, feeling a surge of strength. Protecting him gave Ethan courage. He realized that humans were not the strongest in the galaxy, but their cleverness, courage, and teamwork made them unpredictable. That unpredictability was their weapon. The enemy regrouped, moving cautiously through the jungle. Ethan and the others used every trap they had prepared. Pitfalls swallowed attackers, tripwires triggered falling rocks, and Mara's light devices disoriented the enemy. Lyra's powers guided their movements, sensing danger before it arrived. One enemy, larger than the others, broke through a barrier of vines. It moved quickly toward Ethan, its armor gleaming in the moonlight. Ethan raised his stick, aiming carefully. Lyra stepped forward, channeling her energy. A pulse shot from her hands, striking the creature and forcing it to stumble. Ethan used the moment to strike, hitting a weak spot in the armor. The enemy fell, stunned but not defeated. Luke fired his crossbow from the shadows, striking another enemy trying to flank them. Mara activated another light device, creating a temporary wall of blinding energy. The enemy was smart, but the humans were faster, smarter, and using the jungle to their advantage. Hours passed. The fight continued under the moonlight, with the jungle alive with the sounds of battle. Ethan's muscles ached, Lyra's energy waned, and Noah slept quietly in her arms, unaware of the danger surrounding them. "We can do this," Ethan whispered, his voice low but steady. "We survive. We win. Stay focused." Lyra nodded. "I will hold them off as long as I can. You finish the rest. We must protect Noah." Ethan led the group with careful strategy. They moved quietly, using shadows, trees, and hidden paths. Every time the enemy approached, they used traps, distraction, and Lyra's powers to weaken them. Slowly but surely, the humans pushed the enemy back. Finally, the larger enemy from before rose again, furious and more careful this time. It moved toward Lyra, its eyes fixed on Noah. Ethan realized that this might be their final chance. "Lyra, cover Noah!" Ethan shouted. "We go together! Take the high ground!" Lyra nodded. She sent a powerful pulse of energy into the jungle, creating a wave that knocked several enemies off balance. Ethan carried Noah toward a cliff edge they had scouted earlier. Luke and Mara followed, using traps to slow any pursuing attackers. The enemy leader moved swiftly, blocking their path. It was fast, intelligent, and dangerous. But Ethan did not hesitate. He remembered every trick, every lesson, every move that had helped them survive the desert and the jungle. "Use the traps!" Ethan shouted. "Lead them into the pitfalls!" The group moved as one. They lured the enemy leader toward a hidden pit, carefully covered with leaves and branches. The creature fell in, its strength useless against the trap. It roared in frustration, but it could not escape. Lyra sent another pulse of energy, striking the remaining attackers and confusing their sensors. Mara triggered a final series of light traps, blinding them completely. Luke shot the crossbow, striking one of the last enemy's soldiers. Ethan looked around. The jungle was quiet again. The humans were breathing heavily, tired but victorious. The enemy had retreated, leaving behind only broken armor and scattered technology. Noah stirred, blinking sleepily. Lyra held him close, smiling faintly. Ethan felt a wave of relief and pride. They had survived. Against a stronger, smarter enemy, humans had won through cleverness, courage, and teamwork. "We did it," Ethan said softly. "We survived." Lyra nodded. "For now, but they will come back. We must be ready. They underestimate us, and that is our advantage." Luke checked the perimeter. "We can rest for now, but we prepare for the next challenge. The jungle is strong, but we must not be careless." Mara added, "We survived because we worked together. Humans are clever, adaptable, and determined. They will never give up." Ethan looked at Noah, then at Lyra. "And we will protect him, no matter what. We survive together." The group spent the night repairing traps, reinforcing the cave, and planning for the future. They knew the enemy would return, but they also knew something important. Humans never quit. They could face stronger, smarter enemies and still find a way to survive. Lyra rested for a moment, holding Noah. "Your courage gives me strength," she said to Ethan. "You and your people are stronger than you know." Ethan smiled faintly. "We survive because we have each other. That is our strength." As dawn approached, the jungle seemed peaceful again. Birds chirped, small animals moved cautiously, and the river flowed gently. But the humans knew the peace was temporary. Danger would come again, but they would be ready. Ethan looked at the group. "We survived the desert, we survived the jungle, and we defeated them tonight. That shows something important. Humans never give up. We fight, we think, and we survive." Lyra nodded, holding Noah closer. "We have hope. That is stronger than anything they can throw at us." Luke checked the traps one last time. "We use the jungle, our brains, and our courage. They cannot defeat us if we stay smart and work together." Mara added, "Humans are clever, unpredictable, and determined. That is what makes us dangerous. That is what makes us survive." Ethan smiled and looked at Noah. "And as long as we stay together, no force can stop us. Not in the desert, not in the jungle, not in the stars. We survive." The sun rose slowly over the jungle canopy. Light filtered through the leaves, shining on the group as they prepared for the challenges ahead. They had faced a relentless enemy, survived impossible odds, and learned the strength of teamwork, courage, and human ingenuity. Lyra looked at Ethan. "We will survive, together." Ethan nodded. "Yes, together, always." The jungle was alive. The enemy was still out there, but the humans had proved something important. No matter how strong, how smart, or how relentless the enemy, humans could adapt, fight, and survive. That was the true power. As they moved deeper into the jungle to plan their next steps, Ethan held Noah tightly, Lyra close by, and felt hope for the first time in weeks. They were free, for now. And humans, clever and determined, would always find a way to survive. The chase was far from over. But humans were ready, and for now that was enough.